Picture a Britain wrapped in cigarette smoke, factory fog, and petrol fumes. The streets hummed with engines that rattled, coughed, and spluttered their way through strikes, power cuts, and social revolution. These were the cars that carried a nation. These were not showroom fantasies or collector's items. They were ordinary machines that became unforgettable simply by being there. Inside, radios crackled. Vinyl seats stuck in summer heat. Everyday stories unfolded mile after mile. The 1970s tested Britain. Fuel shortages, industrial disputes, economic uncertainty. Yet families queued at petrol stations and still drove to seaside towns for summer holidays. British cars reflected the nation itself, resilient, imperfect, quietly determined. New motorways cut through the British countryside. They promised freedom and speed. Families piled into their cars and discovered parts of Britain they had never seen. The road became a symbol of progress and of hope. We begin with the Ford Cortina. No other car defined 1970s Britain quite like this one. By the middle of the decade, it had become the nation's best-selling car. It outsold all rivals with ease. In 1970, Ford revealed the Mark III Cortina. Its new Coke bottle design set it apart, a weightier car with a safer feel. Sales started slowly due to a strike in 1971, but production recovered quickly. Once back on track, the Cortina Mark III became Britain's biggest-selling car. In 1972, Ford sold 187,000 units. That was 11.5% of the entire market. The Cortina remained Britain's top-selling car until 1976. Over 2.5 million were sold across all generations. It became the ultimate family car, the car that every British man either drove or dreamed of. Ford achieved something remarkable. From 1972 onwards, Ford models led British car sales for 40 consecutive years. The Cortina was number one for 9 of those years. It was Britain's best-selling car of the entire decade. The Mini. No car captured the spirit of a generation quite like this small machine. It zipped through city centres. It squeezed into tight parking spaces. It proved that Britain could build something truly revolutionary. 1971 was the best year in Mini history. Over 318,000 cars rolled off the production line. Despite growing competition from foreign manufacturers, British buyers remained loyal to this remarkable little car. The 1970s brought new Mini variants. The Clubman arrived with its distinctive squared-off front. The 1275 GT offered genuine performance. These were cars with hydroelastic suspension and features found on no other small car. Travel became cheaper in the 70s. Foreign competitors entered the British market. But Mini fought back by expanding abroad. By 1977, over 4 million Minis had been sold worldwide. Global fame had arrived. The early Mini 1275 GT had unique features. The bonnet stay sat on the left-hand side, a detail found only on very early Clubman-fronted models. Today, these cars fetch remarkable prices at auction. The Ford Escort arrived at the Brussels Motor Show in January 1968. Advertised as the small car that is not, it became an instant success. The base 1100 Super cost £666. April 1970 saw the birth of something special. The Escort RS 1600. A homologation special with a Cosworth BDA twin-cam engine producing 120 brake horsepower. This was Ford's weapon for rally domination. September 1971 brought the Escort Sport. It had RS quarter bumpers, round headlights, and flared wheel arches. A black-painted rear panel completed the look. Buyers could not resist. The sales rolled in. The heavily revised Mark II Escort arrived in late 1974. In 1976, it achieved something remarkable. it outsold the mighty Cortina. The Escort had proven itself as Britain's most versatile small car. In competition, the later RS 1800 Mark II Escort produced as much as 250 brake horsepower. It proved an unbeatable combination with the Escort's agile handling. Ford dominated rallying throughout the decade. The Morris Marina arrived in April 1971. Built to save British Leyland, designed to rival the Ford Cortina, the ex-Morris Motors plant at Cowley in Oxford was largely unchanged since the 1920s. British Leyland had been created only 3 years earlier through merger. Already it faced serious challenges: financial instability, frequent labor disputes, fierce competition from Ford and Vauxhall. The company desperately needed a dependable mass-market family car. Despite its problems, over 1 million Marinas were sold during the 1970s. In 1972, sales rose 155%. The Marina climbed to second place in British sales. Families relied on it. Although the Marina appeared modern in 1971, much of its engineering was already outdated. Critics mocked it. Television later destroyed its reputation. Yet ordinary families kept buying it. The Marina highlighted British Leyland's structural weaknesses. The Austin Allegro arrived in 1973. Designed to replace the successful Austin 1100 and 1300 models. Over 642,000 were produced during its 10-year life. Most were sold on the home market. The Allegro was intended as a forward-looking design. It was meant to compete with technically advanced European cars like the Citroën GS. But its development budget was only half that of the simpler Marina. The compromise showed. The Allegro became synonymous with poor quality. British Leyland collapsed in 1975. The company was nationalized. A string of disappointing models had damaged the reputation of British manufacturing. The Allegro carried much of the blame. The Vauxhall Viva HC arrived in 1970 with smart new styling. On 20th of July 1971, the millionth Viva rolled off the production line at Luton. Politician John Eden drove it amid much celebration. The Viva HC was available as saloon, estate, and coupe. Its American influence was obvious. Narrow horizontal rear lamp clusters. Flat dashboard with letterbox-style speedometer. A pronounced bonnet hump echoed in the front bumper. Early 1971 brought the Fenza coupe. Built to compete with the Ford Capri and Morris Marina coupe. The SL version sported 4 headlights and a 2-liter twin-carburetor engine. It was Vauxhall's answer to the pony car craze. The Ford Capri arrived promising style and excitement. A hit across Europe, it sold more than 150,000 units in its first year on the continent. Ford had created a new breed of car. Car and Driver magazine declared the Capri essentially what new performance cars should be: lithe, lively, and susceptible to driver inputs. Initial sales exceeded predicted demand by 100%. A Capri in the driveway meant you had made it. The European Capri continued production until 1986. For the final 3 years, the German plant built cars exclusively for Britain. Total production over 17 years reached nearly 1.9 million. The Capri had earned its place in history. Wednesday, 17th June, 1970. A date not etched on many minds. Yet it was the day the Range Rover was announced to the world's motoring press. Unknown to Rover, this vehicle would revolutionize the leisure car market entirely. The story started years earlier. Rover had toyed with an upmarket Land Rover estate since the 50s. The project was named Road Rover. Prototypes were built, then shelved. In 1966, engineers Spencer King and Gordon Bashford revived the concept. These stories of British motoring must not be forgotten. If you value documentaries preserving British history and the lives of ordinary people, please subscribe to this channel. Press the bell icon for notifications, like and share. Help ensure these memories echo through generations. August 1967 saw the first prototype completed. Chassis number 100.1, registration SYE157F. 25 pre-production Range Rovers were built in late 1969 and early 1970. The name Velar was used to confuse observers. In total, only 86 Range Rovers were built in 1970. The first 3 were registered on 2nd of January. Chassis number 1 survives today at the Land Rover Centre in Huddersfield. Chassis number 3 sits at the Heritage Museum in Gaydon. The Hillman Avenger arrived in 1970. Built by Roots Group, later Chrysler UK, a conventional rear-wheel drive saloon designed for the modern family. Available as saloon and estate, it offered practicality without pretension. Thousands of British families made it their daily transport. The Avenger Tiger brought sporting credentials to the range. Bright colors and go-faster stripes attracted younger buyers. On racetracks and rally stages, the Avenger proved surprisingly capable. It was another example of British manufacturers building cars that punched above their weight. The Austin Maxi, launched in 1969, was still selling strongly throughout the 70s. Britain's first 5-door hatchback, practical and spacious. The rear seats folded flat to create a cavernous load area. Families used it for everything from holidays to house moves. In 1977, Aston Martin launched the V8 Vantage. Setting a 0 to 60 time of 5.3 seconds, it claimed the title of world's fastest production car. Few would have suspected this British-built bruiser could threaten Ferrari and Lamborghini. The Jensen Interceptor was unmistakable. Gorgeous Italian styling met Chrysler-sourced engines in a West Midlands factory. An unlikely mixture of design and engineering. The 7.2-litre V8 produced 285 brake horsepower. Top speed reached 133 miles per hour. The Triumph Dolomite Sprint arrived in 1973. A compact sports saloon with genuine performance. The 16-valve engine was an engineering achievement. Critics praised its handling and driver involvement. For those who wanted something faster than a Cortina, the Dolomite Sprint delivered. By the late 70s, these cars filled every used car lot in Britain. Cortinas and Escorts, Marinas and Allegros, Vivas and Maxis. They were affordable transport for working families, first cars for young drivers, the backbone of British motoring throughout the decade. Many people learned to drive in these cars. Fathers teaching sons on quiet Sunday mornings, driving instructors guiding nervous learners through town centres. The clutch pedal, the gear stick, the handbrake turn in an empty car park. These were the machines that taught a nation. Those Allegros and Marinas have now vanished from British roads. They carry stories of a nation struggling through the 3-day week, a country trying to maintain its place in a world that had moved on. Yet their memory endures in photographs and films. Today, these cars appear at classic shows across Britain, lovingly restored by enthusiasts who remember when they were new. A 1970 Mini 1275 GT recently sold at auction for £39,100, far beyond its original purchase price. Whether you remember these cars from childhood, whether you learned to drive in one, whether you have only seen them in old photographs, this journey offers a glimpse into a Britain that feels both distant and strangely familiar. A time we cannot forget. It was not just about engines and design. It was about the lives lived inside these cars, the journeys taken, the arguments had, the songs sung along to on the radio, the silences shared on long drives, the era they quietly defined. These cars were not just transportation. They were mobile witnesses to Britain's most transformative decade. From crowded council estates to new motorways, from petrol queues to seaside holidays, they carried a nation through triumph and hardship, and they will never be forgotten.